That's a very good that you mentioned that in the logic. No, I mean
Yes.
yes, the structure is makes sense, but what
Mhm.
about when? When do we use it? At what point do we decide to use each one of them? No,
Yes.
that's precisely the thing. So I want to focus on that precisely today, and I want to know if your partners have the same issue. What about Sophie? What about Fer? And it's just entered the class. What do you think about these structures? Do you know when to use them? Do you know? Yeah. What's your strategy when in terms of structure application?
I I understand the structure. I also watched or saw before in other time maybe the using perfect model. Also I already saw, but I definitely have to practice it because it's a little bit more complex structure. So
Yeah.
maybe I can manage in a perfect way, of course. And also I have to study um past participles and verbs. So but I am okay, I think.
Hmm. Okay, do you get confused with auxiliaries? Do you dominate all of them, or can you say that you an example with every auxiliary that exists?
Mm, I I cannot say that I dominate because I have to study it more. But I know I know the auxiliaries, and I just have to, um, for example, study this sheet that you have in the, and I think that it's the only thing that I need because maybe I don't remember exactly what is the structure of the sentence, but I just have
That's
to read this. Or maybe I never understand very well the difference between must and might.
for example, and it's
For
massive.
example,
The
I
difference is massive.
remember that, yeah, in what cases I have to use must, and in what I have to use might.
Well, so it's technically the same issue that Connie is mentioning is the logic of the auxiliaries because there is an application for each one of them, a conversation in which they fit, and conversations where they are not going to fit because of the context that they emit. So yeah, that precisely is my point when I am asking you that question is wanting to know how to fix that that confusion as soon as possible because these are basic structures, you know? And if we don't dominate the basic structures, then it will be complicated to pass and understand more complex structures like perfect models. As you see, the perfect model structure contains a lot of components. It has one auxiliary, one have auxiliary, and then the verb past participle, which is a particular structure that we use a lot in our speech, but it's complicated to formulate it, to build it, right? So that there is a secret over there. Where, when to use it, why to use it, what auxiliaries work for, how auxiliaries change the conversation. If you change might for must, the idea changed completely. So that is exactly my point in a moment. In a moment, we're going to review, especially modal verbs. Modal verbs, I think, will be a good review. What about Fer? Can you say that you dominate these structures?
Mm, like 95%. I think I do.
Which one is more confusing for you?
Uh, I mean, I can use it the auxiliaries. I can use the auxiliaries. I can make a sentence with all the auxiliaries, I think. Um, maybe for example, if we are like the last class where we went seeing perfect models, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Maybe I have to see the structure, see an example, and then I can make my sentence like in a correct way. But if I'm talking, I don't think in the structure, so I just talk. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but I don't think in the structure or in the auxiliary or in the verb. I just talk.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, yes, totally.
I think that a mistake that a lot of people do or have, and
Definitely.
one the mistake that I also have is that I traduce. I think in Spanish and then you
Translate.
change it to English, and maybe that's why they confuse because you want
Yes.
to say it exactly like something in Spanish, you want to say it in English, but it doesn't work like that. So my advice, if you want an advice, is don't traduce anything to Spanish and to English. Just talk,
Translate.
just translate. Yeah.
Translate. Yes, that's a great advice. I think that's a point that I want to attack. The at some point first we get familiar with the structures, right? We get to know the difference between one word and another. But then when we dominate these structures, we forget them and we start talking Spanglish. We translate everything we are saying, and we don't. We gotta slow down a little bit and understand if our sentence is correct, especially when we don't know if it's correct or not. Especially when we detect the context of the conversation, the corresponding context of the conversation. There was a topic last Friday. I told you the context in which perfect models fit. Who remembers what was the topic? There was a little girl with the face covered.
Regrets.
Exactly. Regrets. Talking about things that happened in the past, right? In a negative or positive way because something didn't happen, because something happened. That particular topic, when you are speaking and you detect a regret, slow down and check if your structure is correct. So you can identify, number one, the structure, if you're saying it right. Number two, how to use it. Correct yourself, which is the objective, the whole point of the course. Correcting yourself and become an independent speaker. Because when we are thinking in Spanish, we commit all the mistakes of the world. That's precisely where the mistakes begin, right? So one strategy that I can suggest is detect context of conversations. Okay, context of conversations are the ones that you have here by number. Number one, descriptions and locations. Number two, routines. Number three, finished actions. Number four, future plans. Right now actions. Number five, interrupted actions. Number six, experiences in my life, unfinished actions and recent past. Number seven, modal verbs, different contexts. And number eight, past before past. In the structures that I sent you, there is number nine, which is passive voice, and number 10, which are regret, perfect models. Okay. If you detect the context of the conversation, you will know if your structure is correct. But first, it's a double way because first you need to get familiar with the structures in order to get the context. No, so it's a double hand. It's a blade of double. No, it's a sword of double blade. First, you need to understand your structures. Then associate the context with the structure. And then when you speak, associate the context with the correct structure, so you correct yourself. It's one way and another. In the case of Connie and Sophie, we are fighting with context, with the logic of them. And in the case of Fer, you are thinking in Spanish. So the three of them can be corrected if you slow down and think about the structure correctly. What about its? What is your main confusion when we are talking about correcting yourself?
Mm, I think a little bit both because I I know that I know the structures sometimes, but when I have to talk, I forgot because I want to yes say something quickly, and then I don't have so much opportunities to practice, so I
Many.
forgot many opportunities to practice, so I forgot double. So I suppose it's that.
Okay. Yeah, of course. We gotta increase the opportunities when we speak, but yeah, it's the same issue. We gotta slow down.
Yeah.
No, we for some reason people or many schools tell you that fluency is super important. So then we try to hurry up and speak super fast. And I don't see it as something important. If you don't convey the correct idea, the speed is a problem. And I have spoken, when I speak with native people, with American people, I can see in their face that they are not understanding a single thing if I speak fast. So it's like, why our priority is speaking fast if at the end we are not going to convey any idea, like we are not going to be able to communicate if we speak fast. So one of the things that we have to move aside is the speed. Don't worry about going fast, worry about accuracy. What is accuracy? Do you know what is accuracy? How can you define accuracy?
Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like using the correct words.
Okay, I like it. Using the correct words. Straight to the point. Straight
Yes.
to the correct, yeah, the correct words, right? That's the one you have to worry about. And with the more you train this, naturally you are going to get fluency at the end. But that is the final step. Don't go to the final step before going through structure domination. Got it? Great. Let's see and let's review modal verbs before going to perfect words. For example, the last class we talked about would have, no? And would have was used for things that didn't happen or happened, but you wanted a different result. You wanted something different. I would have done this, and I would have seen that. In what contexts do we use would? What do we use would for?
For a desire?
For a desire can be, desires, very good. Desires.
Maybe also imagine situations.
Imaginary. Imagine is a verb. Imaginary is a description.
Okay, imaginary.
Good. Exactly. Imaginary situations where I would do this, I would do that. There is a very famous sentence that starts with if, precisely. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. Right? I am imagining that I am you. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. And this is the application of would. A desire, for example, I would like, that's the most common. I would like to buy an electric car. There's a wish over there. See? Desires, wishes, and imaginary situations. Right? That one's easy. So in the same context, we have to remember the rest. Let's remember must and might, the ones that Sophie were talking about. Okay? In order to make a difference between these two, the first thing that I suggest is remember the similarity or the synonym of might. Who remembers the similarity? There is one modal verb that is similar to might.
May.
Very good. There you have it. So, do you know what it's made for, Sophie?
I think that I confuse most with may. So,
Really?
yeah, because my confusion is might and may,
Mm-hmm.
precisely, not most and may. Sorry.
Okay. So you got confused right now.
Yeah.
It was made in May. Well,
Yeah.
if you see, for example, let's talk about this. May I go to the bathroom? Right? Versus I may go to Canada this next year. Okay. What is the first difference that you spot at first? What can you see? Anyone? What's the first difference that you identify here?
May is like permission or
Good. In which example? In the first or the second?
in the second, may I go?
Exactly. May expresses permission as a question. Because as an affirmation, it is not.
Probability.
Exactly. As an affirmation, may expresses probable stuff. Things that are possibly happening. And you can associate may and might with the word perhaps. So as affirmations, as affirmation, may, oh no, there is no difference between may and might. No difference at all as an affirmation. And this is the only modal verb that has this problem. The rest, don't worry. The rest have only one application. That's the difference. Easy as that. It's question versus affirmation. Just like that. Go ahead.
There's any difference between made and may as a question?
Oh, that is a very good question. The word might is not used as a question for some reason. Because when you are speaking about probability, you don't ask questions. You say, for example, would you do that? And then you answer I would with a might. Yeah, I think I might. Might is used. Let's take a note about that. Might is usually not used as a question because it's impossible to ask about probabilities. In case you want to ask for probabilities, better use would. As in, would you buy an electric car? The answer would be, I think I
May.
I may. I think I might. May or might. There you have one of the most common problems in English, in intermediate English, is the difference between these two. But it makes sense, no? If you identify context, these two makes total sense. So this information is useful if you want to understand this one over here. May have and might have, which is in contractions. They're pronounced may have. There's no contraction. May have no contraction, and might have contraction would be might have. Everybody pronunciation. Might have.
Might have.
Might have.
Might have.
Mm-hmm. So might have is used, if you remember the previous one, may and might are used for
Probable stuff.
probable stuff, right? So this one over here has the same context. Look at this. Something possibly happened. Something possibly happened in the past. We are not sure if it happened or not, but we know because of the logic. There is something happening in the logic that tells us that it happened. Example, they may have left. They may have left early because of the holiday traffic. What's the meaning of this? Maybe they left early, and it's logic to think. It's logic to think they maybe left early because of the traffic. You see what I mean? What do you understand here?
It's talking about something that happened, but we are not 100% sure that it happened.
Precisely. We are not 100% sure it happens because it is based on the logic. It is based on the logic that we have for what happened. Mhm. In which cases, in which situations would you use this structure? Who has an idea? Hmm?
When someone is asking me for maybe something that I know, but I didn't see at that time.
Nice. Something that I know but I didn't see at the time. I didn't
Like
see at the
why
time.
they are asking you for that because you are familiar with the situation or
Okay.
the person, but you weren't present at the time.
Nice. I like it. Use this structure when you are familiar with the person or the situation. That was a very good observation. Because you know the person, you know what is the usual reaction of the person, the usual behavior of that person. So this particular structure is used when I'm familiar with the situation, but I wasn't present, as you say. You are sure. No, you are not sure. It happened because you were not there. But you know what might have happened. You know what may have happened.
Teacher, we can say that it is uses when we suppose something,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
maybe also it doesn't matter if you know the person or not. I think.
Precisely. You suppose, let's say, well, I don't know if the second part, when you say that you don't know, or it's not necessary to know the person, probably, probably, but you are not familiar in this case with the person. You're familiar with the situation. That's why you suppose, no?
Yeah.
Perfectly, yeah, precisely. Think about an example. In what situation do you suppose? And you say, it might have done this. It may have happened that. Who wants to try?
Maybe
Come on, girls.
when I am in a party
Uh,
and someone asks me for my friend, and and I say he might have left the party because he needs to arrive early.
Excellent. Okay, needs in present?
He needed
He needed.
to
Because
arrive.
you were talking in past, exactly. I
Yes,
like that example. He might have left early because he needed to arrive. So that one is, you know, he is, you know where he was, right? You know what he needed to do.
yes,
And he didn't say goodbye. Probably somebody told you, hey, have you seen this guy? He might have left, right?
And I have a question.
Go
With
for it.
might or might, we always have to use the auxiliary have. They might have left,
Oh,
or
that's an
just
excellent
in this
question.
context where we are like supposing things.
Exactly. No, no, no. In this case, we are supposing in past.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you suppose in future?
Would,
Might and
will,
may.
they might, will.
No, no, no. Only might and may. Because will is a promise. So then here, what you have to contrast here is might and may versus will. Let's talk about that. Let's put it on the side and let's talk about will. Will and might and may, the two of them happen in future. This structure is used to make promises. And on the other side, this structure is used to make suppositions about the future.
Okay, so you don't have to add any extra auxiliary. We
Precisely.
just, like, I might pass my TOEFL exam.
Exactly.
Okay. But
That's one.
it's still like, well, yeah, it's also a probable thing. Like,
It's
you're
also
not
a probable
sure
thing.
it will happen. It's a probable thing. Okay.
Why don't use double auxiliary? Because that will be contradictory. If you tell me I might will pass my exam, whoa, are you might or will? You know. And many people have the issue with verb to be and do and does. Or probably at the beginning, before this situation, you had the same issue. Is are you for example, a very common mistake. Are you do your homework in the night? Jesus. That's a super contradictory sentence because are is for descriptions and do is for actions, right? The same thing, it sounds exactly equal if you say, I might will pass my exam.
Okay.
Totally, totally contradictory. But as you can see, both of them are for future. And if you include the have, now we are talking in past.
Okay.
See? It is
And
super fast.
the verb is in simple past and
Never.
past work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Again, is perfect modal. Would have, in this case is may and might have, plus past participle.
Yeah, I remember.
Now you remember. There is a golden rule. I always tell the students when I teach this to A2s, I tell them remember the golden rule. The golden rule goes modal verb and your verb must go in simple form. This is a golden rule that we always need to remember. So then, if you remember the golden rule, you will remember that when we use modal verbs, when we use, perfect modals, you will always use auxiliary have and never use auxiliary has. Right? In simple form, it's might plus simple form, may plus simple form, will plus simple form. And when you collocate may have needs a verb in past participle. This is an obligation from the basic structures. Over here. Look at structure number 6, and it is have and has plus past participle. So the verb in past participle is because of the have, not because of the might.
Okay.
You get it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you can distinguish these two. Thanks to the structure number 6. Makes total sense, no? That's the one, guys. So let's review then examples. In what other cases, apart from the party, for example, in the case of Connie, she remembered a friend who left the party because she knew about his situation. Um, in what other cases do you suppose? Do you make suppositions about the past?
In gossips.
In gossips. Yeah, okay.
So like she may have told all my friends my secret.
Damn. She's not a good friend.
No, she's not.
She's not. Exactly. She might have told everybody. Uh-huh. Yeah, when you know the other person knows a secret that you told another person, it's like, hey, how does she know that? Right? This girl might have told her. Right? Actually, that takes me to the next topic. You are not sure she told her or not, so you say might. But in this particular case, you are very sure because you only told her.
So it will be she must have told me.
Exactly. What if we suppose something but the supposition is stronger? Then we need to do a little change. It's not might. We go to must. Check this out. We are sure that something happened. This is the application of must have, guys. Must have has no contraction, and we use it for stronger suppositions. We are pretty sure about something that happens. Still, you don't have the confirmation yet. Okay? So it's a little bit more than may and might, but less than yes, it happened, you know? So you have to be careful between speaking in simple past and using must have. Because speaking in simple past will express that you know for sure about what happened. Check this difference, for example. Level 1 of certainty. She might have told everybody. We are not sure. Do you agree? Level 2 of certainty. She must have told everybody. Meaning, we still are not sure, but there is so many reasons to think she did it. And the level 3 of certainty, the simple past. She told everybody. You are sure. There is no other supposition anymore. You see how important is the difference between these three? What a great example. She might have told everybody. She must have told everybody. And she told everybody. There you go. Between levels. And it's the same thing with the structure. It's again the modal verb plus have plus past participle. So interesting. The structure is very distant from the context. So we have to get to know both. So tell me, in which cases would you use must have?
When you are almost sure that something happened.
When you're almost sure that something happened, right? Try to give me a, a real life situation where you would use it.
Okay. Yesterday I had a donut in the kitchen. So this morning I
The
I
donut
found
is not
my
there.
donut. So my brother
Uh-huh.
must
Okay.
have eaten my donut last night.
My sister hates me, still tells me about that. I mean, I don't live with my sister anymore. I haven't lived with my sister for almost how long? For a long time. I have no number. And today she still tells me, "Do you remember when you ate my pastry? I had my pastry there, and you ate it." Like, dude, this is 2022. Do you still remember that? Please. So I know how it feels. And nobody else must have eaten your donut.
Yeah, I don't know if he was the person that ate my donuts, but I am almost pretty sure that he
Exactly.
did.
It will be a surprise if you discover that it was your father or your mother, but
Yeah.
you're almost pretty sure he was.
Mhm.
That's exactly the application of must have. Very good. Who else? Is that it? No other.
When
Okay.
my sister told me that uh, he she didn't have money, I always think that she must have spent all
Exactly.
her money in makeup.
Ay, ay, ay. A classic. A very, very classic. So she's like, what? Does she tell you, no, I cannot go because I don't have money, but she looks fantastic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that happens. And buying makeup is addictive. I know about that. Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Okay, so let's make a pause a little bit. Jessie is in the room. She's going to take attendance. Hello, Jessie. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
What's
Thank you.
up?
So we're going to take attendance, please. Connie?
Here, good morning.
Good morning, Connie. Thank you. Itze?
Hi, good
It's
morning.
Hi, good morning, Itze. Thank you. Jesus?
Jojo didn't come.
All right. Luis Alejandro?
Alex, yes, Alex is here.
Yes? All right.
Alex, hello.
Luis Alejandro. Fer?
Here, Jessie. Hi.
Thank you, Fer. Good morning. And Sophie?
Morning, Jessie.
Good morning. Thank you. So that's all.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you to you. Have a good day.
You too. Very good. Okay, so there you have it, guys. This is the structure for number, well, must have. Contrast must have, and that's the reason I contrasted must with may, right? Because when we are talking about simple modal verbs, reviewing simple modal verbs, we need to get to know that must is used for two applications. Number one, obligations. For example, I must what? I must wash the dishes after taking lunch, but also for suppositions about the future. So there are many ways to express about the future, and we normally think that it's only will, but in real application, it's not only will. We can also talk about things that you must do. Let's say in a condition. If what would it be? If I eat this donut, I must. No, but this is an obligation. Wait, no. A supposition about the future. I know. It must be exhausting. After that, after running that much. How do you think the person is in this moment? Well, he is exhausted, he is tired, and we are not sure, right? But we are pretty certain about the status of the person, thanks to must. It's impossible to say you might be exhausted, right? Changing my mind is not about the future. Suppose it's about the present. That makes more sense. You must be hungry, right? You must be hungry. You haven't eaten in a long, all the morning. Let's go for lunch. I am pretty sure you are hungry.
And we cannot make suppositions about the future with must.
That's something I want to find. You
Because,
must.
for example, if I want to say, like the example with the TOEFL exam, it sounds weird. Well, if I say I must pass my TOEFL exam, but it's like I have to do it.
Exactly, it sounds like an obligation, no? Totally.
Not like a probable thing that will happen.
Exactly. It's not, yeah, you are not expressing a supposition, you are expressing something
An
you have to do. That's why you need to associate must with have to. You know? That's a very good strategy. But at the end it's impossible to make a supposition. It's suppositions about the present. If you want to make a supposition about the future, use might. You see? They are so confusing. I know it looks so redundant, but if you start organizing your mind like that, everything makes sense. And the best way, the best way to remember this stuff is watching movies, listening to American people talk, paying attention when a person say might have, must have, will have, etc. Then you will understand all this stuff. Why the person used that? What's the context? What's happening in the situation? Right? Okay. Let's see the contrary for must have. Okay? The opposite of must have. Introducing can't have. So we are pretty sure about something, but we are pretty sure that it was not possible something happened. It says over here, something was not logically possible. Something was not logically possible. Someone is lying to you. Right? Look at this example. She can't have passed the exam. Right? Let's talk about the performance of that person. That student showed low performance during the course. And we are not sure. We're not sure if she studied or not. But we're pretty sure she lacked competence. You know, there was a student a long time ago. I had a student in another school, and this guy had a very low performance in the class. When you asked him an example, his vocabulary was like super basic, and his structures were all messed up. He didn't have any idea about the difference between was and did, for example. Any idea about was and where, for example. He confused that a lot. But then in the exam, every time he had an exam, he passed it with 100. And we all were like, what? You know, when we saw his exam, everybody, all the teachers were like, nah, how is that possible? You know, this guy shows a very different performance in class. You know, and of course the top tier student, the one that had a very good structure and everything, had a 70 in the exam, an 80 in the exam. So then we were like, how did this guy pass with 100? And one day we took him to make an exam by himself. Only him. You're gonna do the exam in front of me, and it's only you and me in the class. Nobody else. No cell phones, no cameras, no nothing. You know? He didn't pass the exam. So then we discovered that he was cheating. And I was like, wow, I was surprised because you don't believe that a person cheat like that because you know that you are cheating yourself, right? It's pretty logic that if you pass the exam, you are not really passing your English. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect. But he had the comfort to pass the exam for some reason. This is when people started saying, well, this person can't have passed the exam. Something was not logically possible. It's impossible that this happened. And you are sure because of the logic. Logic tells you that this was not like that. Try to give me an example. In which situations have you said, nah, this can't have happened? No? Do you
Yeah,
think of
I
an
have an example. Maybe
okay?
when somebody tells you that your sister um stole something, And of course, you know your sister and you say, no, she can't have stolen something
Good.
at all. Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, yes, she can't have done that. I know her. Right? Great example. You're pretty sure, and in any case, hey, sister, do you have it? No? Okay. But you know, for instance, that she can have done that. Very good example. She can't have stolen the past participle. Very good. Any other? I would say.
Maybe when somebody came to you and say that your boyfriend is cheating at you, and you know, or you're supposed know.
Yeah, you're pretty sure.
Yes, obviously it didn't happen. You are crazy. Is the first thing that you think, I suppose.
Exactly. Because you believe in him. You're like, nah, he can't have done that.
Yes.
Especially when they tell you, yeah, this Friday he was with you. And it's like, nah, come on, bro.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yep. Definitely. That's a great example. So try to use can't have in this situation.
My boyfriend can have, can't have cheated
Excellent. It's a
at
great
me
verb. Cheated collocation. Cheated on.
on cheated on me
Because.
nah, because I don't know, because he loves me, I suppose. I hope.
I hope. Exactly. Yes, that's a great example. He can't have done that. At first glance, you believe in him. You hope he didn't do that. He's like, no, please, he can't have done that. That's a very interesting thing. Can't. It's it's an expression that we use in this particular situation instead of must, right? Because precisely what an interesting thing. We are not really sure about this guy, but we believe in this person. That was a very, very good example. When you say must, there's no belief and there's no, there's only facts, right? But with can't, yes, there is belief. So that was a very, very nice question. Can you make a supposition with can positive? No, you cannot. Only can't. Okay? Take that as a note. Can have doesn't exist. Do you know why?
Because you have must.
Kinda. Kinda, because must is a different modal than can. Must tells you suppositions in present. What does can do in present?
It's when you are able to do something.
When you are able to do something, or when you make a possibility.
Mhm.
I can, let's say, or let's take your example. I have the ability. I can go to the gym if I finish this task on time. I can go
It's
to the gym.
might.
It's might. I can say can to wait. I might go to the gym. No, because might is like well, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So you're sure.
Exactly. Here you're sure, and it's a direct consequence for the first action. If I finish on time, I can go to the gym. If I don't finish on time, I will have to do yoga in front of my television. Right? Then,
Yes.
can is used for present and future. There is no can in past. It doesn't exist.
The
Can
could.
exactly. There you have it. The reason can have doesn't exist is because could have exist.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. Structure number 10. Can have doesn't exist. The opposite of can or can in past is could. And this one has a contraction. Contraction pronunciation, everybody? Could have. Everybody, pronunciation. Could have.
Could it?
Could have.
Could have, exactly. That sounds good. I could have done that. I could have done this. I could have done that. This is talking about something that was possible in theory, but it didn't happen. I had the chances. I had the chances. I had an opportunity, but I didn't do it. Example, he could have become a doctor, right? Maybe his family, this is something that my family tells me all the time. You know, my father was a doctor. I have a lot of doctors around me, and I memorized parts of the body, names of medicine, and a lot of stuff very easily. So my father used to say a lot all the time, you could have been a great doctor. You know, it's like the classic. In the house of the doctor, there's no gonna be a doctor. You know? But yeah, this particular resonates in my mind a lot because I remember my father when I see could have what could have happened. Yesterday I was watching a movie about a marriage. It was this couple, husband and wife, and then have you seen La La Land? Right? I will try not to cry expressing this. That movie is beautiful. And there is this sequence, oh my god, this sequence about all the things that could have happened. What could have been. You know exactly what sequence I'm talking about. But it didn't. This is a great, great, great thing. I think this is one of the most common and one of the most easy from all of them. In what other situation would you use could have?
Teacher, of, of course, I think that couldn't
Mhm.
doesn't exist because exist
Exactly.
can have.
Precisely. Couldn't have doesn't exist because you have can't have. Exactly. The opposite way. Let's take a note about that. For negative
But in
suppositions.
the slides, it says the negative form is couldn't have,
Couldn't have. Oh yeah. It was not
meaning
even
it
possible.
was not even possible to do it.
He couldn't have seen you. No, but I have heard this a lot. You are right. Mhm. Yeah, no, forget it. You can use can't have and couldn't have. In this particular situation, couldn't have and can have mean the same. Okay, so let's take another one. Couldn't have and can have mean the same.
Teacher, I have to go.
Ah, all right.
Bye. Bye,
Have a
girls.
very good day.
Okay,
See you later.
thank you.
Good. Couldn't have and can have exactly the same meaning. Do you have another example here? Another situation in which you have said could have?
I remember with the example a song. Uh, I went. I don't remember the name of the song, but it's Michael. The singer is Michael. I don't remember his last name.
Okay.
But the song says that we couldn't. We we could have been so good together, or something like that. And
Yes,
I have
yes.
the phrase is like we could have been so good together, or something like that.
Exactly. Great example. Great example. You wish something have happened before, right? The person matched with you perfectly, but there was never the situation in which you were together. So yeah, we could have been together. Or we could have been perfect together. What an excellent example. That's a thing. Could have. Easy as that. So many of them have this connotation, no? Like something that didn't happen. Think about that when you are speaking. This is the context that you need to pursue, right? At the end of this class, we have something like last but not least, recommendations, right? This one over here should have. And there is a contraction. The contraction for should have is, yeah, I said it. Pronunciation should have. Everybody should have.
Should have.
Should have, exactly. Should have. So when you say should have, we are talking about something was a good idea. There is something that you didn't do, but it was a good idea to do. The context that you can think is, why didn't you? Look at the example. You should have told me about the sale. I could have got some new shoes at a discount. So I went to Zara. Normally, clothes at Zara are very expensive, but they are wonderful. They look pretty good. And I see my friend wearing very nice jacket, and I'm like, hey, that's a Zara jacket, right? Dude, I went to the cinema, I passed in front of Zara, and I saw it at 70% discount. That is crazy, bro. You should have told me. You should have told me because I like Zara clothes. And you know that I like Zara clothes. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? You should have told me. You see? It's like a suggestion about the past. Try to give me an example. No? Any example?
You should have studied for the final exam.
You should have studied for exactly. Why didn't you study for the final exam? Right? But sometimes it's like so obvious, no? But yeah, some people didn't do it. Nice. Any
Teacher,
other?
we have also in almost all the perfect modes, we also have the negative part. I mean, for example, shouldn't have.
You shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you can say negative in this one. Yeah, you can say you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't. You could have done that. Yeah, you can say a negative thing. Suggestion. Negative past suggestion. Shouldn't have. You shouldn't have called her at that point. No, you shouldn't have called her all drunk. Now she is mad. Now she's not happy. Right? That's the one. So the only ones that don't have a negative is must. Must and may not have gone. No, yeah, you can use may. Only must. Only must have no negative. The rest, the rest have negatives.
And in the case of is may not
Exactly.
have.
You may not have done that. May not have. Like that, yeah.
And it's the same with might. Might
Same
not.
thing. Precisely. There you have it, guys. Great examples, great class. Okay, so you have to remember that when we are talking about auxiliaries, when we are talking about structures, the first thing you need to remember is to associate the auxiliary with the context of the conversation. If you are going to use a modal verb, auxiliary have, auxiliary has, do, did, the verb to be, make sure the context of the conversation is correct. Check the time expression, check when the action is happening, check what is happening in the conversation. So you can verify and validate the structure. All the structures are in the handbook that I sent you. Okay? And these ones over here, you reviewed all the structures correctly. And if you have any question, you can tell me at any point. Got it? That was the lesson of today. Great class, great participation. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay?
Thank you, teacher.
See you tomorrow.
You too,
Thank
girls.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.